Listening to the Celtic Coast Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly. And where else would you be listening? Only on KOWS.FM, F for Frank, M for Matilda. Of course, we are the voice, and I do mean the voice with a big capital V. Voice of West Sonoma County Community Radio, bringing you the absolute and the most best, ultimately the most best in alternative music programming in all of the planet and maybe in our whole solar system. Now, I haven't heard all the radio in all the solar systems. However, I have heard through a divine intervention that KOWS is the greatest radio station ever created on the planet. Now, don't take my word for it. It's not truth until you believe it. And it's not a lie if you believe it. So tune into the station. We got some of the greatest, and again, just my opinion, although it's been out there, some of the greatest DJs on the planet. And you were listening there through Kim Tripsmith, the Feisty Females. And, of course, it's hilarious that the Irish show comes on after that, and it's a manly show, and her show is a Feisty Female show. So there you go. The universe totally maybe is knowing what the heck it's doing. Maybe everything is perfect. Who knows? All that I know is that I don't know. You know? All right, we've got a great show for you this week. We're going to be talking about creating a life without limits. Now, you might say, well, Dermot, that's all fine and dandy. Now, how in the heck do you create a life without limits? Well, let me tell you what a life without limits is. A life without limits is where you get to create the life that you want. A life without limits is a life where you get to look out into the horizon and see all the infinite possibilities for your life. A life without limits is where you don't point the finger at someone else and you say, hey, the reason my life is terrible is because that person said that to me, and that person is doing that, and that boss is saying that to me, and my wife keeps me blah, 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 and my kids take all my blah, 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 blah. No way, sirree. Rubbish. There's only one thing that limits your life. And I'm going to give you a chocolate bar if you can guess what that one thing is. Starts with a Y, ends with a U. Yes, you've guessed it. It's you. Oh, thanks for that incredible moment, Dermot. Really appreciated it. No, seriously. Now, that I don't mean that as a judgment thing. I totally mean that as a respectful type of tease. Something we do in coaching. I am a professional life coach, and I say professional not lightly because I've spent years studying and I've spent years practicing. And I actually am a facilitator. I train online as a trainer. I train people to become life coaches, and I also train organizations to bring a life coaching or a coaching approach into their organization. So I kind of know a little bit of what I'm doing. Wouldn't say a whole lot now. I'm not an expert, but I certainly have a few little things that I could share with you in the hopes, as always, the intention of our show is to make your life better and keep your life simple. It's that simple. Make your life better, keep your life simple. That's it. That's the goal of every show that I do. All right. So we're going to be looking at creating a life without limits. Lots of different things. We're going to be looking at a little bit of what questions do we ask ourselves in our lives? If questions are the answers, at least they are in coaching, what questions are we asking ourselves? In other words, what questions are you asking yourself? Are they opening you up, or are they shutting you down? Are they closing the door to possibility, or are they opening the door to possibility, or are they closing the door to possibilities? We're going to be looking at a philosophy. What kind of a philosophy, that's a big word, do you want to live by? Do you want to live by the philosophy that everything outside of you've got to try and control, or do you want to live with from an inside-out perspective where everything that I think and feel and study and experience inside I can express on the outside, that I have control over three things? Did you know that? You only have control over three things. The rest is out of your control. And you're going to have to wait a few minutes before I tell you. No, just kidding. Here's what you have control over. Your thoughts, your words, and, oh, maybe it's only 2 things. It's only 2 things. I thought it was 3. My God, the universe must have made a miscalculation there. The higher beings told me there was 3 things, but apparently they lied. So the truth is not out there. All right. So 2 things. Your thought, your word. Oh, sorry, there is 3 things. It just came to me. Your thoughts, your words, and your actions. TWA. It's not an airline. Thought, word, and action. Yes, you've got control over those 3 things. After that, you've got 0 control over anything. Now, do you even have control over your thoughts? I mean, the Bob, the big guy upstairs, tells me that I do. But I got to tell you, I have about 1 million thoughts about every hour. And I have control over about, I don't know, 2 of them, of those million every hour. I have about 2. And the rest of the time, they're just, you know, I got one brain, but many voices. And that's all that's happening in my brain at any given time. In terms of words, yeah, what I do is I put some duct tape over my mouth, and that helps me to control the words that I speak. And as far as actions, I don't know. You know, I still pick at my nails with my other nails. I do all sorts of things that I don't have any control over in terms of bodily temple stuff. Not Templars, temple, physical stuff. Do I have over actions? Sometimes. Can I stop myself from making a cup of coffee when I really need one? No, I can't. There's no question about it. I can't. In fact, I just made myself a cup of coffee this morning. It doesn't have any caffeine in it, though. I have given up coffee with caffeine, so I'm drinking this other thing. It's called, what the hell is it called? It's called some focus thing or something. It's all about focus. So, and I've forgotten what it is. So there you go. That tells you how good it's working when my focus. I've forgotten what this actually called. So there you go. Forget about focus too. Focus is out of your control. So your thought, your word, and your action. If you're lucky, let me preface that. If you're lucky, and I don't mean the look of the Irish type of stuff, but if you're lucky, if you're like a lucky lad, let's say that, well, then you'll have your thoughts, your control, nice word, over the thoughts, the words, and the actions. And that's about it. After that, there's nothing. And that, my dear listeners, is No Blarney. All right, what are we talking about today? We're talking today about how do we live a life that is a life that has no limits. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means a lot of different things for different people. A life without limits. The only thing, at least in the world that I come from, the world of coaching, philosophy, metaphysics, the only thing that really stops us from living a life that we desire, a life that is limitless, a life that is unlimited, a life that has no limits is us. Now, I shared at the start of the show jokingly, but also to make a point that when we look at our lives, when we look at how we look out into the world, we have our control, or we have our awareness around our thoughts, our words, and our actions. They're the 3 things that we can really control. Outside of that, we can't control people, we can't control things, we can't control places, we can't control experiences happening to us, we can't control life happening to us. But yet, a lot of us try to. Now, I'm speaking about myself, of course, when I'm talking about that. I mean I. Every part of my life I'm trying to control, down to the food that's in the fridge, making sure it gets used every week. Yeah, I came from a family that, we didn't waste anything. You know what I mean? There was food on the table when the knock was at the door, food's ready. I was down there before my mother finished the sentence. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was that type of thing in our house. Food was scarce, although my mother now, God bless her, she would always remind us that, hey, poverty is not something to be ashamed of, Dermot. It's just an inconvenience. And let's just say that we were inconvenienced a few times. Not many, many, many times, but a few times. Let's just leave it at that. And totally forgotten what I was saying now. I was on our great rant there, and I just totally went off the rails. All right, so limits. We're talking about limits. Let's get back to that. So when we look at our thoughts, our word, and our actions, and we're trying to control our lives, what we need to as men is to be able to take a step back and to start to ask ourselves some questions about, okay, so what does it mean to be me? What does it mean to have a life? What does it mean to have a life of value? What types of value do I want to have in my life? Now, let's talk about values for a moment. Values and beliefs are very different. Values are something that are intrinsic. Values are something that are important to you, beneficial to you, something that you appreciate. Now, you can value yourself and your ideas about things. You can value joy, peace, love, courage. Usually values are one word. And then we have beliefs. Right? Well, I believe that the world is flat, or I believe that the world is round, or I believe that this universe is divinely guided and controlled by some bigger force that I like to call Bob. B-O-B. Spelled backwards is the same. This is about as spiritual as I could make it. And so we have these beliefs, and they're usually sentences. Now, beliefs can change over time, but values usually don't change over time. They usually deepen over time. Our values usually get deeper, but our beliefs can change. So let's take a step back now and start to look at, okay, so Dermot, what are some things that I need to focus on, or be good to focus on, in terms of creating a life without limits? Well, the first thing is you. That's the first thing. So let's take it in terms of word, what questions we ask. Now, in coaching, a lot of the questions that I ask are open-ended questions, which means that I ask a lot of questions about what do you want? Why do you want it? If you had that experience, or if you had more joy, value, love, peace, courage, confidence, if you had that in your life, what would that give you? And how would you know you've gotten it? See, it's very interesting. A lot of people talk about they want to have a different life. But if they were to ask themselves, well, how do I want it different? They wouldn't be able to tell you. So in coaching, I'll ask questions like, okay, what do you want? What is it you really want from your life? And some clients will say, I don't know, and then we'll have a conversation around that. What if you did know? It's a great question to ask yourself. A lot of people say, I don't know. And you could just ask them, what if you did know? What if it was possible for you to have a different life? What would you want to have differently? Great question to ask yourself is, why is it important for me to have that? Now, you can get very... what's the word? You could get very specific, or you could get very technical and go every part of your life and say, why do I want that? Why do I want that? But general things. I want to have that experience. I want to jump out of an airplane. So why do you want to jump out of an airplane? Why? What is important to you about jumping out of an airplane? If you jumped out of an airplane, what would that give you that's important? What would that give you that's valuable? What would that give you that's beneficial? The value question. And then how would you know you've gotten it? Dermot, I want to have a different life. That's wonderful. Why do you want to have a different life? Because the one I have, I hate. All right, wonderful. Well, how would you know when you had a different life? What would be the evidence? What would you know? What would you see? What would you hear? What would you feel? What would you experience? What would you be expressing in the world if you had a different life? Well, Dermot, I'd be feeling more joy. I'd be feeling more happy. I'd be feeling more peace. I'd feel more control around my environment. I'd have more money. I have a better relationship, blah, 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 whatever it is. And then at some point in the conversation, towards the end of the conversation, I'll ask the client some variation of, all right, so you've said what you want. You've told me why it's important. You told me that you know how you're gonna get it. The question then becomes, But how are you going to commit to this? What's one action step that's going to start to move you forward? What's one thing that you can do to help you to start to move this precious, God-given, wonderful, incredible life that you've been given? Most of us have, maybe 80 to 100 years. 80 is general right around now. We have 80 years of life. And wouldn't it be a nice thing if we could just think, how do I want to spend those? So let's say you're in your 40s. I'm in my 40s. How do I want to spend the next 30 or 40 years? Who do I want to be in the next 30 or 40 years? If I could wave a magic wand and change one area of my life, what would I change? It's a great question to ask yourself, by the way. If I could change one area of my life, what area of my life would I change? And why would it be important for me to change that life? So asking ourselves open-ended questions, questions that inspire possibilities, inspire exploration, inspire questioning, inspire discovery, are really very important. But what do most of us do? Now stay with me, men, here. Stay with me on this one. What do most of us do when we're confronted with a problem? I hear all the lads out there saying, we shut down. We go to the pub. We go somewhere else. We try and run away from the problem. And trust me, dear listener, I've done that many, many times myself. But here's the thing. If we could ask ourselves some open-ended questions. Now, how do you ask an open-ended question? Anytime you ask what, how, why, when, with who, where, which, anytime you ask those types of questions, you're asking an open-ended question. Anytime you ask can I, will I, is there, would I, should I, may I, could I, should I, did I, that's a closed-ended question. You usually get a yes or a no answers to that. But when we're confronted with a problem, we want to start to practice asking open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are where the real juice of life is. Open-ended questions are where the heart is. Open-ended questions are where the possibilities are. Open-ended questions, everyone, is where you can truly start to create a magnificent life. But most of us come from a culture, or we've been habituated through our family or through our friends or through society or through communities, whatever it might be, that we ask more closed-ended questions than we ask open-ended questions. You can tell whether a man is clever by his answers. Growing up as a kid, we would do this gentle teasing. Someone would make fun of us and we'd make fun of them. And this went on all day long. In the coaching world, they call it matching and mismatching. Somebody says something and you say the opposite. Somebody says, is it a nice day? You say, yeah, it's a nice day, but I'd rather it was more sunny, or I'd rather it rained, or I'd rather I wasn't here. There's matching, mismatching. And you can tell a clever man by his answers. But you can tell a wise man by his questions. So if you want to be a leader, the word leader means pathfinder. Means path. And the word dur comes from the Latin, means finder. So if you want to be a pathfinder, or another word is a leader, you got to start to asking some questions. You gotta want to be able to lead by asking questions. If you want to make a statement about your life, ask a question. If you want to change your life, ask a different question. The epitome of insanity in this culture, in most cultures, is that we ask the same question over and over and over and over, And it goes over and over and over and over. And we expect a different answer. We do the same thing over and over again, and we expect a different result. We ask the same questions over and over and over again, and we look for a different answer. We do the same things over and over and over again, looking for a different outcome. And does it happen? In all cases, no. We've got to be willing to be able to do something different. We've got to be able to ask different questions. If you want a different answer, you got to ask a different question. If you ask a smart question, you'll get a smart answer. You ask a dumb question, there's a good chance. There's a good chance that you will get a dumb answer. All right, I got a joke for you. There was three Irish polar bears, and the baby polar bear loved to ask questions. Hang on, I'm going to grab myself a bit of tea here. I love the old cup of tea, I love the old cup of tea. But Jesus, I'll tell you what, you can take the man out of Ireland, but you can't take the Ireland out of the man. Oh, I love my tea. Well, it's kind of coffee tea. I don't know what the hell this stuff is. It's not coffee, it's not tea, it's some focus type of thing. It's got no caffeine in it. I've given it up. After my little vertigo episode, I gave up caffeine. I can't have anything that stimulates me, except my own thoughts and words and actions. They're the only things that allow to stimulate me now. All right, here's to you. Here's to you, manly men out there. All the men changing the world, being better, being bigger, asking different questions. Here's to you. That's good. That's good. Oh, God, that's good. All right. So where was I? Oh, yeah. The polar bears. So there's three Irish polar bears. Paddy, Seamus, and what was the wife's name? The wife was Maureen. Maureen was her name. Paddy and Seamus and Maureen. Paddy was the husband, was the big polar bear, daddy polar bear, and Maureen was the mammy polar bear. And then there was the baby polar bear. Now, the baby polar bear, he must have been like a coach in his last life because he was very curious. So curious, in fact, that he was always asking questions. Why this? What that? When that? How that? How would you do this? Why does that happen? Why is that important? What are we doing this for? Yada, 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 yada. And anyone, as luck would have it, these polar bears were down the south of Ireland. And they decided that they were going to be sent up to the north of Ireland. Now, the north of Ireland is quite cold, I have to say. It's quite rainy, And anyway, they were going to be sent up there, no bother, up to the north of Ireland. So they packed their bags and they got on their bicycles or whatever it was. I think they were, put in a truck and drove up there. When they got up there, anyway, they were put in the zoo and everything was fine. It was all dandy. But the baby bear, Seamus, came up to his dad one day. Now, he's curious. I told you he was curious. He loved to ask questions. He knew the secret to life. He knew the secret to changing a situation in his life was to ask a different question. So anyway, he came to his mother one day, and when he had this kind of curious look on his face, his eyebrows were squished they were. And he came up to the missus, to the mother anyway, Maureen, and says, Ma! Now, he was from Dublin, so he spoke like that, He says, Ma, I got a question for you. And the mother was cooking fish or doing something. She says, yes, what is it? What do you want, Seamus? And says, Ma, says, would you tell me something? Am I a polar bear? Like, am I really a polar bear? And the mother said, for God's sake, Seamus, of course you're a bloody polar bear. What else would you be? Of course you're a polar bear. All right, so he said, you sure? He says, yep, you're a polar bear, no question about it. All right, so anyway, he kind of wasn't convinced, he kind of wasn't, he was still a bit on the fence. So anyway, he went to his da. In Ireland, we call da, our dad, we call them da. DA. We like to shorten things. We like to keep things in Ireland short. So instead of saying dad, which is very long, we just say da, which is short. Some people even say duh, right? They don't even say the da. They don't even say the vowel, da. They just say duh. Hello, da. But anyway, for our story, we'll say he said da, because I'm pretty sure he said da. He says da, because he's from Dublin. Am I a polar bear? And the father says, Seamus. Of course you're a polar bear. What else would you be, for God's sake, man? I said, Jesus, Dad, I don't know if I'm a polar bear or not. He says, son, you're a polar bear. He says, why would you even ask such a stupid thing? Says he, because I'm freezing. I'm freezing, Dad. So when you ask a question, you'll get an answer. There's no question about it, even from an Irish polar bear. All right, so when we ask questions, as they say, questions are the answers. I had a boomerang one time. I threw it out hoping it'll come back. Didn't come back to me. It was a stick. Would you believe that? Yeah. An Irishman, now an Australian didn't sell it to me. He was an Irishman. So I have a quote here from Eric Schmidt, who's the CEO of Google. He says, we run this company on questions, not answers. On questions. CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt. We run this company on questions. So how about, take this idea for a moment, everyone. Suppose that you were to run your life on a question. Now you may be thinking, you might be thinking, no, God, no, I might have you there thinking, what kinds of questions, Dermot, would we be asking ourselves there now? The Irish are great for asking questions. You ever notice that? And they always ask a question with a question. Or they'll make a statement with a question. Are you going to eat that dinner? Are you? You're going to drive that car? Is it? You're learning that new material, are you? Every statement that an Irishman makes, he started with a question. Or they'll answer a question with a question. What are you doing tonight? Nothing, I suppose. Where is it you're going tonight now? You're sitting at home, I bet. We answer the question with a question. You ever know that about Irish people? They're very interesting. So, if we want to lead rather than tell someone, ask a question. If you want to inspire someone instead of forcing them to do something, ask them a question. If you want to make a statement instead of pushing someone into something, ask a question. If you want to change your life, change the questions that you're asking yourself. It's really that simple, everyone. Let me ask you this. If you're at work or if you're at home with your wife or your kids or your family, would you rather be asked for your input than told what to do? The answer is obvious, right? You'd rather be asked for your input. In the same way that your kids would rather be asked for their input than told what to do. Now, is there a place for all that? Of course there is. There's a place for, telling kids what to do and all of that. There's all of that. I totally get that. But wouldn't you be rather asked a question than given an answer? Now, in the world, we tend to look for answers instead of asking the questions. So if you want to honor your spouse, your friends, your families, your employees, your boss, whoever is in your life that's important, if you want to honor them, ask them questions instead of telling them. Get curious about what they want. Get curious. Have you ever asked your wife, what do you want really out of life? What is it you really want out of life? You got the kids here, you got the family, we got the home, we got the dog, the picket fence. But what do you really want out of life? What's really important to you in life? What's important to you about our relationship? What's important to you about the upkeep of this house? What's important to you about the upbringing of our kids? What's important to you about your own dreams? What dreams do you have outside of our relationship? What dreams do you have outside of our home? And if they don't know, then get them a coach or get them into a workshop that they start to discover what they are. There's a lot of ladies out there. I know you're listening. There's a lot of women that listen to the show. And thank you, ladies, for listening, by the way. That they're working their butts off with the family and everything else, that they have no time for themselves. And something gets lost in the interim. Something gets lost. So can we as men, can we put the pause on our own wants and needs and desires and goals and outcomes and stop and ask our little ladies, what's important to you? Hey, we got a weekend coming up. What's important to you about this weekend? How would you like to spend this weekend that's valuable? How would you like to spend this weekend to have a little bit more fun than we have most weekends? What might be one fun thing that we could do this weekend that you would like to do, just for you? What's one thing that you'd like to do this week that could be just for you? I'll take the kids or whatever it is. Or maybe you'd like to do something together. Maybe you take it upon yourself, dear men, and you create something special for the missus. I took my missus last night to the Indigo Girls. She didn't know it was happening. But it's a huge point system, because if you tell them on Monday and you're taking them out on Friday, they will salivate. They will saturate and salivate over that the whole week. And they'll tell their friends, he's taking me out on Friday. I don't know where we're going, but he's taking me out. I can't wait. And every day she comes home, she said, oh, tell me where we're going. Oh, I'd love to, sweetie, but I can't. You know what type of excitement and romance and intrigue and intimacy and playfulness that creates? Just from taking your little lady out and booking it a week ahead of time. Instead of, and I've done this for years, instead of saying, what do you want to do tonight? We're going out. What do you want to do? You don't want to do anything? Well, Jesus, now you'll better do something. You're always saying you want to do something. What are you doing? What is it you want to do? Take some initiative, men. Take it by the gibbly-gobbly jibbly bits. Life, that is. And create something. Hey, sweetie, I'm going to take you out next Thursday. It's a big surprise. Can't tell you. You know how many brownie points that you would create just from that? So questions are the answers, man. Questions are the answers. But we got to be willing to ask bigger questions. If we want a bigger life, men, we've got to be willing to ask bigger questions. If you want a smaller life, do you ever meet anyone that's living like a truly great life? Like, do you ever meet someone who's just like, they're just bustling for life. They're just so energetic. And you wonder to yourself, what the hell is that guy smoking? After you ask that question. But then you generally say, what's that guy got that I don't got? We only get one life, gentlemen. That's it. Now, you may believe in reincarnation and you have multiple lives, which is all fine and dandy. But you only get, that doesn't really do anything for you if you think that this life is the only one that you own. It's the only one that's yours. This life is the only life that you get where you get to be you. It's the only life where you can create some of your dreams, some of your desires. Now, if you don't know what they are, get a coach, a life coach. I'm not saying me or whoever. I'm just saying get a coach. They'll support you. They'll help you. They did me. Coaching is wonderful. And if that doesn't appeal to you, get on YouTube, look at some workshops, get a workshop. Say, hey, what do I want to do with my life? I got the job, I got the career, but I'm not satisfied. I'm not fulfilled. I'm still unhappy. Something is missing in my life. Now, I can tell you, gentlemen, that something is not a new car. And that something, gentlemen, is not a ski trip. And that's something, gentlemen, I'll tell you, is not an affair. And that's something, gentlemen, I'll tell you, is not changing your house or the location you live. I've done all of those things. And it might be great for a while. What you've got to change is the questions that you're asking yourself. I know it sounds so simple. And this show is all about keeping life simple, making life better. And one of the ways, you could even ask yourself this question. What are some of the areas of my life? Okay, I've got my job, got my career, got my family, my friends, relationships, finances, right? There's only like 4 or 5 main areas of your life. And if I was to take one of those areas that is complicated, I say it's complicated. By the way, life is not complicated. We make life. Life can be hard, no question about that, but it's not complicated. It's not complicated. And take one of those areas of your life. Let's say it's your career, and ask yourself this very simple question. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. How could I make this area of my life a little more simple? Or simpler. I'm not sure which is the correct language. I'm Irish. I don't know these things. But how could I make this area of my life and finances a little more simple? How could I make the area of my relationship a little more simple? Or ask yourself this question. How could I take this area of my life, to define what the areas are, finances, spirituality, fun, adventure, relationships, career, whatever it is, and ask yourself, how can I make this area of my life a little better? How can I make this area of my life just a little bit better? It's very simple, really, when we think about it, isn't it? It's not that complicated, gentlemen. But we've got to be willing to ask ourselves. We've got to be willing to ask ourselves the questions, because if you're not willing to ask yourself your questions, you'll never get a different answer. All right, we're going to leave it there. It's about 4 minutes to the hour. We'll play a little song here. We're going to thank Crunchy. It's Friday, so put the feet up, relax. You've had a hard week. Some of you have been sitting on your Petula Clark doing nothing all week. No, that's totally not correct, not accurate. All right, let's slow it down here for a few songs. This one is I love this song. This is Shane MacGowan and Sinead O'Connor, and this song is called Haunted. Enjoy, everyone. Welcome to the show. This is the Celtic Coach Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly. Playing on KOWS.FM, F for Frank, M for Matilda, every Friday from 1 to 3. Tune in. All right, so we started talking the show about open-ended questions. The second part of the show that I want to talk about is we're talking about creating a life without limits today. And one of the other part of creating a life without limits is we've got to take a time to look at planning. How do we plan for our lives? What are some ways that we can start to, if we're going to ask ourselves questions, then the next obvious thing is, how do we plan for our lives? What is it we do in our lives that will start to create a plan? Best way to take control of your life is take control of your life. Otherwise, life will take control of you. Have you ever been in that, gentlemen? Where do you feel that right now, where life has taken control of maybe not all of your life, but has taken control of part of your life? There's a part of your life that is not within your control. Your relationship, your money, your finances, your career, your job, whatever it might be. There's a part of your life that is not within your control. Now, as we said earlier, men, thought, word, and action, that is within our control. This is things that we can take care of. These are things that we can do. Now, before we get into whole planning out your life, this is it's the top of the hour. So, of course, at the top of the hour, we always have the Celtic Coach, the Irishman's 11 and I do say 11, 11 things that you absolutely do not need to know. And today it's about men. So top 11 things you absolutely don't need to know about men. All right, here we go. Number 11, did you know that men were the first to wear high heels in the 1600s? Actually, women began to wear them to look a lot more masculine. Now, isn't that interesting? And now they wear those high heels, which I don't know how women wear those high heels. Holy moly, guacamole. Number 10, by 2020, this is true, this is fact, China could have between 30 and 40 million men who cannot find wives. So ladies, there's any ladies out there that say that just all the good men are gone, they're taken, go to China. There's 40 million of them. Number 9, did you know that men can lactate? Yes, it's not only the ladies that get to lactate, but men can lactate, but only under extreme circumstances. And I'm trying to think of like when would an extreme circumstance for me would be that when my little lady says to me, "How are you feeling?" And she wants more of an answer more than good. She wants me to actually express some emotions. That would be that I'd start lactating then. Number 8, despite popular belief, men are not more flatulent than the ladies. I know it's hard to believe. I think ladies are just more cuter about it. You know, I think they step away and they do it, you know, they just don't make a fuss of it. When we want to, you know, drop one or let a bomb go, we make sure everyone around us knows. We'll even call up our friends and say, "Hey, Bob, you never guess what happened." Oh, my God. It was like 2 minutes long. It was incredible. Yeah, we want to share the joy of that one. Number 7, men are... Now, this is fascinating. I'm not making this stuff up. Men are struck by lightning 5 times more than women. Now, I wonder, is that because we're thick and we need like to get shocked every now and then? Or is it God just saying, "Hey, lighten up. Stop using your head so much, and here's something that you can put in your body. You can feel it like a lightning bolt." Number 6, here's something that's interesting. Men sweat twice as much as women. And again, I think it's because they're talking about their emotions or have to. Number 5, a woman speaks about 7,000 words a day and a man about 2,000. I'd have to challenge that statistic. I would say women about 20,000 words a day and men about 20 to 50. Number 4, when 4 or more men get together, what do they talk about? What do they talk about when 2 or more men get together? What do they talk about? They talk about sports, right? Yeah, of course. When 4 or more women get together, they talk about men. Isn't that fascinating? Number 3. Did you know that men don't get cellulite? Yeah, it's only the ladies, and I apologize. I'm sorry. I think it's another reason why God is a man, but who knows? Who knows these things? Number 2, here's interesting. In case you've ever wondered about men who get married, men who have pierced ears are better equipped for marriage. Yeah. Why, you might be thinking? Because, first of all, they've experienced pain. And second of all, they went out, not only experienced pain, but they've also went out and shopped for jewelry. So it's 2 prerequisites, I think, for in a relationship or for marriage. All right, the number 1 thing you absolutely do not need to know about men is this. Chocolate, believe it or not, can cause in men and women, can cause arousal, similar to sexual foreplay, due to some of the ingredients. So, gentlemen, my advice for you is, if you come home from work and you're feeling a little tired, whip out the bar of chocolate, hand it to the little lady, just say, "Hey, listen, just eat this, and I go into the bedroom. I'll be there in about 5 minutes." That's a terrible joke. That's a really terrible, terrible joke, Dermot. You should be tarred and feathered for that joke. Okay. I'm just trying to have a bit of fun. I'm trying to take away the seriousness of it all. Life is so serious. All right. So we talked about open-ended questions, creating a life without limits. That's the topic of our show today, creating a life without limits. So we talked about open-ended questions. The second part that we're going to talk about is how do we take then, if we're going to ask ourselves some powerful questions, we're going to listen to the answers, then what do we do next? Well, when you think and you speak the word, then you've got to act. Now, action is not something that you sit at home and you fluffy in your mind, the law of attraction stuff. That does work, but it only works with action. There's got to be some type of, you've heard of faith without works is dead, which means that if you say to yourself, I have faith and I'm not going to do anything about it, I'm not going to challenge myself, I'm not going to push myself out of a comfort zone. By the way, the greatest men on the planet, they take themselves or they push themselves out of their comfort zone daily. I don't care who you talk to. If you were to talk to any of the great men out there that are doing wonderful things in the world and great human beings, they push themselves out of their comfort zone every day. They find something that is going to help them get out of their comfort zone. Now, we don't have to say, I hate public speaking, so I'm going to go public speak. I'm not talking about that, gentlemen. I'm just talking about something simple. Like, maybe today I'll tell my little lady I love her twice, 3 times, 4 times as opposed to 1. All right? Or maybe I'll make an effort to connect with my daughter a little bit more today. Or maybe I'll talk to my boss about that raise. Whatever it is, however you know what I'm talking about, men. You know what I'm talking about here. You're like, yeah, I know the comfort zone, Dermot. I come home, I switch on the TV, I have a beer. Comfort zone. Maybe for one day you don't have a beer. Or maybe for one day you don't watch television. You do something else. You read a book. You take your little lady out for a walk. You exercise. Whatever it might be. The key is, gentlemen, the law of attraction, that all that stuff works. As you think, so you believe. What you focus on expands. I get all that. The internal thought, word, and action creates the outer world of reality. I get all of that. I've read books on it. I've studied it for years. I get it. But what a lot they don't tell you in those books is that this action has got to be accompanied by thought. That's why it's thought, word, and action. You think it, you speak it, you act. Now, that supports it. It doesn't mean that you have to do everything yourself. The law of attraction says that which is likened onto it attracts. So, or that which is likened onto it draws itself to it. So what you focus on expands. But there's got to be action. There's got to be some type of action in you that says, hey, I can do this, or I deserve this, or I want this, or I expect this, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to do my part, and the universe, the Bob, whoever you call it, will do their part too. And so it's a give and take. There's 2 parts going on there. So action is a part of it. A man of no action usually does not have a great life. In fact, I can tell you, a man of no action does not have a great life. So action and faith, if you want to call it faith or a belief in something greater, it's part of the same parcel. They say that being a man, that being a male is a matter of birth. That's true. And that being a man is a matter of age. That's true. But being a manly man is a matter of choice and action. There's no doubt about it, gentlemen. No doubt about it. Steve Jobs said, try not to become a man of success, but rather become a man of value. And how do you create value? You create value by taking steps. You take value. You create value by going out there and doing things for your life. We can sit at home and think happy thoughts all you want and be positive. It's not going to create a great life for you if you can't take the action to support those thoughts. Now, do you have to believe that you have a great life or you can create a great life? No, but there has to be a little bit of an opening. And questions create that opening that will help you to move forward. Faith without works is dead. All right, so let's take this now into a little deeper conversation, so around planning. So you've heard the old adage, take control of your life or life will take control of you. You've heard that, what is it? People don't plan to fail. They actually fail to plan. So a very easy way to create a plan. Now, I do it every week. What I do is actually, it was every Friday. It's now every Sunday evening. And I sit down for about an hour every Sunday evening. And what I do is I go through my week. And what I do is I look at Monday. I say, I take out my calendar. I say, okay, on Monday, what am I going to do on Monday? What needs to get done? What's the most important thing that I need to get done on Monday? Now, by the way, when you're planning out your life, this great life, you've got to plan the big things first, the most important things first, the number ones, the A1s, the A2s, as they call them in the world of organization. What's the thing that's going to be of the greatest impact? Again, back to questions. If I was to do this one thing and it was to have the greatest impact on my life, what would I do on Monday? And what would I do on Tuesday? In the area of finance, if I was to take one action step that would have a bigger impact on my finances, what might it be? Go take a workshop, get a budget, talk to my family about financing, start using cash to get gas and food, whatever it might be. We talked about that last week in the show. And so what's one action step that I could take to move this thing forward that's going to have a great impact? And so you sit down, and what I do is I sit down, I look at Monday, and I literally on the calendar, I look at 9 o'clock on Monday, and I say 9 to 10, and I say 9 to 10, I'm going to study. I study an hour every day, part of my habit system, part of my value system. And then I look at, okay, so what am I going to do on Tuesday? What's the most important? Okay, so I got a class. I'm teaching a class on Tuesday from 9 to 12:15. All right, after 12:15, what do I want to do? I'm going to go out and I'm going to take a walk or I'm going to exercise for an hour. And so I put exercising because that is valuable for me. I like to have a lot of energy, as you might notice in the show. Is Dermot taking his steroids again today? Is that what he was doing? No. It's this. It's reishi roast. That's what it's called. This drink I'm drinking. It's reishi roast. Speaking of which, I'm going to grab some. It's a reishi roast, they call it. And it's no caffeine, but it helps you to focus and it gives you energy. And it kind of tastes a little bit like coffee. Not a whole lot, I have to say. And it tastes nothing like Irish tea. And I use almond milk instead of dairy. I know. Oh, my God. The things that we sacrifice. All right, but it's for values. For values, what do you value? I value health. Okay, then I got to sacrifice a few little things. Okay, so, and then on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I plan out the week from about 9 o'clock in the morning till about 7 o'clock in the evening. I put it on the calendar. Now, does that mean I'm going to do exactly what I say on the calendar? 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 12 to 4? No. But you have a plan. And just the fact of having a plan is really important for your conscious, your subconscious, and your unconscious mind. Because here's what happens, everyone. When you're planning, every evening, take a look for about a minute and look at the day that's to come. So if it's a Monday evening, just take 2 minutes, 5 minutes if you want to go crazy, and look at your plan for the following day. Just look at it, get your subconscious mind, your unconscious mind to take a snapshot of it, and look at it and say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do this, read it off, and then go to bed. And what happens at night is your subconscious mind starts to go to work, creating events, creating thoughts, creating words, creating actions, creating enthusiasm, inspiration, motivation in you, in your body, while you're sleeping. That is the truth. That has been proven by science, that that's what happens in the subconscious mind. It starts to create your day as you're sleeping. Isn't that nice? Do you ever have a very clear view? Let's take it down to the ground here for a moment. Do you ever have a clear view of what you're going to do the next day? And then all of a sudden, the things start to line up. Do you ever have that experience? I'm sure everyone out there did. It's a fascinating experience. And part of the reason it happens is because you've allowed your subconscious mind to kind of saturate, permeate that in your brain. And then you go to bed, your subconscious mind works while you're sleeping, and the next day starts to just create those experiences for you. It's part of the law of attraction. It's part of that whole thing, metaphysics. So what I do is I take 2 hours. Now, you can just take 20, 30 minutes starting off on Sunday. And I sit down and look at my week. And I plan out the whole week. Now, usually at the start of the month, I plan out the whole month. All the classes, the courses, the workshops, the clients that I have, all of that. I plan it all out. And so I have it on paper. Now, you can put it in Evernote or Google Docs or one of those things, calendars, iCalendars. I just use paper calendar. I'm an old school type of guy. I like to write with a pen and paper when I'm studying books, and I like to use a calendar. That's just me. Use whatever format you have, your phone or whatever, to just dictate what you want to do that week, and your brain will start to go to work. I can't tell you, it's fascinating how it works. It works. I don't even understand how it works. It just works. So you can plan to fail or fail to plan. Which do you want to do? A goal. You know, people who have these goals that are telling you they're writing these books for years and years and years. A goal is nothing. A goal is a goal without a plan is just a wish. It usually does not come true. You know, so when I look at my calendar for the week, I plan out my whole week. Now, people might say, "Oh, Dermot, you're not very spontaneous if you've got the whole week planned out." I adore spontaneity. If it's carefully planned. There was I was walking down the street last week, and there was 2 beggars on the street, and they were both holding out hats. And as I was walking past, I heard the one lad say to the other lad, "This is our retirement plan." And I thought, poor planning, Paddy. Take control of your life, or your life will take control of you. And think about it this way. If your plan A fails, you make a plan A and it fails, remember, you got 25 letters left. You can go to plan B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and so on and so on and so on. So take time to plan your day out. Take time to plan out your year. I have a big year calendar on my wall, and I put all the events that are coming up for the year. I put it up on the big calendar. I write it in a dry eraser. And so anytime someone calls me and says, "Dermot, what are you doing on October 15th? I can turn around and look at that calendar and tell them in a second if I'm free. Don't have to go to my phone and go through my phone and do all those things. That's fine. It's a good thing to put it in your phone too, because you're mobile, you know. I have my office in my home, so it's different if you're at work. So here's the thing, man. Let's wrap this up now. I hope I haven't been hard on you today. I don't mean to be. I do my best to be respectful. But here's the thing. You've got to take time to plan out your life. You've got to do it. Now, I would suggest to you to start small. So think about, okay, ask yourself this question. What's the absolute best day this week where I can sit down for 20 minutes undisturbed, no kids, tell the wife, tell the kids, hey, I'm going into the bedroom, I'm going into the living room, I'm going out to the shed somewhere where I'm going to just sit for 20 minutes and plan out the week, and please do not disturb me. Whatever room you can find in the house. And go in there and take out your calendar, whatever Google Calendar, whatever iCalendar you do, and just sit down and take a look at your week. Okay, what are some big things that are coming up this week? Now, I also sit down my little lady once every week for about 10 or 15 minutes, and I say, hey, what's coming up this week that we need to look at? What do we need to plan for? And she said, okay, well, I'm working, these days this week, and I've got this planned on this day. Okay, great, blah, 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 blah. And I write that on the calendar so I know. Hey, do you need help with anything this week? You're working all this week. Do you want me to cook the meal on Thursday or on Friday? I'll take care of the meal. Would that be helpful? Yes, Dermot, that would be very helpful. So we check in. Okay, what are bills? What bills need to be paid this week? Do you want me to take care of that? You're going to take care of that? Who's paying the bills this week? Whatever it might be. So start to ask yourself some questions, some planning questions. Now, there's 4 planning questions. I'll share them with you. They're very powerful, and you can use them for your life. You can use them for a project. You can use them for cleaning out the garage. You can use them for creating a new business. The first one is get clear about what do you want. What do you want? I've got 20 years left of my life. I've got 30 years left of my life. Or maybe you just say, what do I want for the next year? What do I want for the next week? What do I want for the weekend? Start with that. I'd like to have a little more fun on the weekend. Okay, what's one way you're going to do that? So start with, what do you want? For your weekend, for the week, for the month, for the year, for your life. However you want to answer that. Get clear about what you want. Then ask yourself, why is it important? Why is it important for me to have that? What value, if I have that, what value will that bring to my life? Second question. The third question is, how would you know that you've gotten it? Let's say you want to have more money. Dermot, I want to have more money. And why is it important? It's important because money gives me freedom, gives me more time. I don't have to work so hard. I'll have extra money, some time then to spend. It's a means value, by the way. It's a means to an end. Money is not a value in itself. It's a means to a value. So if I had more money, I'd have more time. And what would you do with the time? I'd spend it with the kids. Okay. So how would you know when you've had more money? Well, I'd have an extra $200 a month. Okay. So what might be one small way? What's one idea? What's one way that you already know of that you could create more money? Oh, I don't know, Dermot. I don't know how to create money. That's the problem. Okay. Inner resources, they're always there. Who do you know that could help you with this? Not borrow money from. Oh, yeah, I could borrow $200. No, but who could help you? Who could you run this idea off and say and ask them? Who do you know in your circle of friends that could help you? Okay? So how would you know you've got money? What do you want more money? Why do you want it? Because I can have more money, I can have more time and free time with my kids. Spend more time, more connection with my kids. And how will I know? How will I know? I'll know because I'll have $200 every month more added. All right. And then the fourth question is, okay, so how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? Do you know what you want, why it's important, and you know what it looks like if you got it? What's it going to look like if you were to complete that, do that, have that, own that, be that? What would it look like, feel like, see like, be like? What would you have? What would let you know that that's completed, it's done? And then how are you going to do it is the fourth question. So what do you want? Why is it important? How would you know that you've gotten it? And how are you going to do it? What's one way that you could move forward and start to do this? And sometimes men, you don't need to always have a plan. Sometimes you just need to take a break for 5 minutes and take a breath and trust and let go and just see what happens. And sometimes you need to get up off your arse and create a plan for your life, because life just doesn't happen. I mean, it does, but the life that you want just doesn't happen. It's got to be planned. It's got to be planned. Bing Crosby said, I've had a fascinating, wonderful life because I planned myself there. Planted, planned, very similar. Plant a pole, plan. So take time, gentlemen. Start off small. Rome wasn't built in a day, but start off small. Just start off with planning a day. Start with that. I'm going to take 5 minutes tonight. I'm going to plan out my day tomorrow. I'm just going to look at it. 9 o'clock. What time do I want to wake up at? I would like to wake up at 8 o'clock. All right. And I'm going to, pother around, make my breakfast, have my coffee. Okay, great. So that'll take an hour. And then what do I want to do from like 11 to 2? I'll read a book or do whatever. So you're not just planning action steps. You're planning everything. You can plan your downtime. How many people do you know plan their downtime? They just kind of wait till the weekend and say, well, whatever the weekend's going to happen, I'll do that. Or I'm going to have a few beers with the lads and that's it. And maybe the little lady say, oh, can we do something this weekend? You say, oh, I just want to relax and do nothing. By the way, I've said that about 1 million times. And I say, yeah, sure, let's do something. Let me plan something. Isn't it interesting the ladies do most of the planning? It was in my house, and now I've started to take a little bit of responsibility. I want to say control, but responsibility is a better word for that. So start off small, every gentleman. What can I plan this weekend that would be nice? A little surprise for my lady. Maybe I'll plan just to go out and buy her some flowers. Maybe I'll plan to take them out at breakfast so they don't have to cook breakfast this weekend. Maybe I'll plan to take the kids out to a movie and not tell them anything. Right? I might even get crazy and say, maybe I'll take them out for a camping trip this weekend. Plan, plan, plan. If you don't plan your life, life will plan you. And I can tell you that the things that life has in store for you, they're not always great. They're not always good. As John Lennon says, life is what happens when you're making plans. And it's fine. Both's going to happen. You're going to make plans and life's going to make plans. You're going to say, I'm going to do this. And then you wake up. Last Christmas, a week before Christmas, I had a big plan to go out and do a bunch of hiking and biking and crazy adventure stuff. Life had other plans for me. I woke up with a massive case of vertigo and ended up in the emergency room. So life will make plans, but you make plans too to support your life. All right? Start small, gentlemen. Rome wasn't built in a day. Start small. And then I'm up to Sundays. I spend an hour. And what I do is the first Sunday of the month, I plan out the whole month. I put all the big stuff on the table on my calendar. I don't plan it every day, but I put all the big stuff. And then week by week, I put all the small stuff. I plan out the week. And the first planning session of the month usually takes me an hour and a half. And then the little planning sessions take me about an hour or less on a Sunday evening. And my little lady knows that on Sunday evening for an hour, 2 hours, I'm not to be disturbed. I'm creating my week. And now she'll come up and say, hey, can we talk for 10 minutes about the week that we have together? I say, yeah, absolutely. And we plan out whatever needs to get done in that week too. So it's give and take, gentlemen. It's give and take. The best thing that I can offer is, be as flexible. If you want to create balance in your life, you want to create a great life for yourself, be flexible about it. Ask yourselves the correct questions. Ask yourself good questions. Ask yourself powerful questions. What do I want from my life? Why is that important? How would I know if I've gotten that, I've completed that, experienced that? And then what's one action step that I can take to start to move that forward? Ask yourself some open-ended questions about where am I going with my life? Where do I want my life to be? Where do I want to be 5 years from now? Just suppose I could go to the end of my life right now and I could look back on all my achievements, all the things that I'm just so proud of. What would some of those things be? And they did a whole survey. They surveyed all these guys, some of the top CEOs, older generation, baby boomers, and they interviewed them to find out, how did they get there and what would they change now that they're all in their 70s and 80s. And a huge percentage of them said that money was not important. It was necessary to buy food and do all those things, but they spent so much time on money. And the other thing they said was, I would have planned better. I would have planned the important things. I would have planned time with my family. I would have planned time just for myself. I got a trip coming up for 5 days in the mountains, just for myself. I sat down, I talked to my little lady, I said, hey, I'm burnt out. My tank is nearly empty. I need to go away for 5 days and just do nothing. So I'm going to go on a silent retreat. Maybe it's off to the wilderness for a few days. Give yourself that, gentlemen. If you cannot fill up your own tank, there's no way that you can fill up your little lady's or your kid's tank if your tank is empty. Give yourself that. Sit down. Tell the little lady, ladies, I know you're listening. Ask your men, hey, do you need a few days by yourself? Do you need an evening by yourself? Usually the little ladies think, he wants an evening by himself? Something suspicious there. And it's not. We're bears, lady. We need to go into our cave every now and then, and just into our bear cave and just growl and grunt and do nothing for an evening or for a couple of days or a week or whatever it is. We need that time. And the interesting thing is when we come out of our bear cave, we're renewed. We're like puppy dogs. Hey, how's it going? Oh, much better. All right, what do you want? You got it. Whatever it is, you got it. So, ladies, you're listening out there. I know you are. Give your men some time. Give your men some space. They love you regardless how much space they take. Not about you. They love you. And the reason they love you is they can take some time for themselves. And when they come back, they'll even love you more. So take, gentlemen, time to plan out. Just suppose you could go to the end of 2017 and you could look back on 2017. What are some of your most memorable experiences? What are some of your most memorable moments? Create them now. Don't be at 2017 at the end and look back and go, well, there's another year gone. You know what people say to me in coaching? Where did that year go, Dermot? Or I'm 60 or 70 or 80. Where did those years go? And it's simple. They didn't plan, so they don't know. I can tell you where last year went. I could sit down and show you my calendar, tell you all the things I did. Tell you all the things I didn't do as well. I mean, I'm not perfect, gentlemen. Don't get me wrong. I'm not perfect. So planning is very important. Take control of your life, gentlemen, or your life will take control of you. Another way to say that is plan out your life, or your life will make a plan for you. And it's not always a great plan, I got to tell you. It's not always a happy plan. All right, everyone, you're listening to the Celtic Coach Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly. Making life better, keeping life simple. This is the intention of the show on KOWS.FM. F for Frank, M for Matilda. I'm here every Friday on KOWS.FM, 1 to 3 on Fridays, the Celtic Coach Radio Show. It's an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly. Although, of course, a lot of ladies are listening in there too. We talk about everything from career to finance to relationships to spirituality. We talk about everything on this show. It's related to men. All right, everyone, we're going to leave it there for now. We're going to play a few more songs, and that'll be the end of our show. If you've just joined us, welcome. You've missed the whole thing, but you can listen to this on YouTube. It'll be up on YouTube. Just put in the Celtic Coach and Irishman's Guide, and all the shows will be up there. All right, let's play a few songs here before we say good night and cheers.